I'm going to try and explain to you the blueprint and the style of one of the greatest bantamweights of all time. And I have, of course, talking about Dominick Cruz. Now, what makes Dominick Cruz's style so special? If you look at his fights, you can instantly realize that this is not a normal fighter. This is not a normal fight. The footwork and the movement of Dominick Cruz is very unorthodox, but is very intelligent and well calculated. Let's first talk about Dominick Cruz's V-steps, because I do think they are one of the more complicated and semi-easy, if you really think about it, of what a V-step is. V-steps are when your feet literally make a V. What Dominick Cruz would do very frequently, and you can see it in his fights, where he would be in his stance, whether it's orthodox or southpaw, and then almost reset, and he will get to a straight, almost standing right in front of you, square to you in a stance, and then comes either back with his original foot or switches stances. And that is a very interesting thing and a very complicated thing to understand when you are thinking about the game plan of Dominick Cruz. This guy is here to make you freeze. This guy is here to never let you get off on him. He is trying to hit you, and 13 people ended up watching Cruz as Cruz went on a 13 fight winning streak after his first loss to Uriah Faber when he was really young. This was all the way back in 2007, where Uriah Faber was the man and Dominick Cruz was just a really young undefeated fighter, and he got caught in a guillotine. And I think that left a real big chip on Dominick Cruz's shoulder, because then we saw an absolute tear in the division where he went 13 fights unbeaten and avenged that Uriah Faber loss twice. And not to mention the trash talk, calling Team Alpha Male, Team Alpha Fail, beating literally every single person in that gym. If you want to talk about Team Alpha Male's dad, it is Dominick Cruz. Dominick Cruz completely whooped and took down everyone in Team Alpha Male at the time. And it was only when they brought a Cody Garbrandt, who was super young and was kind of built to beat Dominick Cruz. They had the blueprint of Dominick Cruz and they just kind of implemented with Cody Garbrandt. And that's when you saw one of the greatest bantamweights we've ever seen. I think that one fight of Cody Garbrandt, I don't think a lot of bantamweights beat him, because that was just Cody Garbrandt on his day. But back to Cruz's footwork, and I want to talk about the center line. Now, the center line is where the head or body should be in a fight, the center of the line. Now, why do I bring that up? I bring that up because although a lot of people move their head and feet and they move in a sort of way, eventually they end up in that center line or back in that center line. Dominick Cruz, however, never is ever in that center line. There is never a single moment in time where that center line is actually there for Dominick Cruz. Now, it is because of the switching of stances, the V-steps that I talked about earlier, but also the incredible head movement that Dominick Cruz had in his day. I mean, this guy was getting all the way down to possibly kissing his knee. He was backing away. His feet were so fast that his head movement was very easily complemented with his footwork, where he was able to escape in all angles. I mean, if Dominick Cruz is moving forward, he has literally 7 to 8 different ways to escape after hitting you. Whether it was when he was a southpaw and he would attack the weak side, kind of what Lomachenko does, where he will throw a cross, leave the cross there, and step outside of that foot. Whether it was him in orthodox shooting away, almost like he's running away from the punch, or whether it's him constantly resetting and doing these different V-steps where he's resetting, getting straight in his stance, standing straight in front of you, but he is just so difficult to time that it's hard to really understand what's coming next of Dominick Cruz. And that is what Cruz wanted. Cruz wanted you to be frozen. Cruz wanted you to be complex and overstimulated of all the different things that Cruz is throwing at you. If you're an orthodox fighter and you're against a southpaw, that lead hand is very apparent. That lead hand is very important because it is so close to that person's face, while the rear hand is very far away in that open stance. And Dominick Cruz, a guy who is constantly switching stances, is constantly making you think of what new offense should I throw to try to land on this guy. Because when you go orthodox versus orthodox, it completely changes the way the fight is played out. And that's exactly what Dominick Cruz made you do. Dominick Cruz made you question what is coming next of Dominick Cruz, whether it is him V-stepping and going to an orthodox position, or him V-stepping and going to a southpaw position. And if you wanted to berate and pressure Dominick Cruz, this guy had the head movement and the footwork to just easily be able to get out of your situation. And I will hold this to the day I die. I think if the octagon was not a cage in pound for pound sakes, because obviously John Jones, who is 265 and is sucking Dana White's dick, gonna beat Dominick Cruz, who is a 150 guy walking around and he's a 135er. But in terms of pound for pound and in an open field, it is just so difficult to try to catch Dominick Cruz. And that's what that 13 fight winning streak all consisted of. It was consisting of guys who tried to catch Dominick Cruz, who tried to aim for his head, who tried to get to Dominick Cruz out of just pure frustration, and Dominick Cruz would just pot shot and take down and constantly just overstimulate people into a 25-minute affair. Different sort of looks that Dominick Cruz gives you makes it so that your timing is very off. Your timing of when to hit Dominick Cruz is so difficult because Dominick Cruz is in and out, and you never know when Dominick Cruz is going to throw and be completely in with you. And by the time he throws and he's in with you, he's already escaped. He's already escaped the possible offense that you could really throw, which leaves you once again just kind of staring at Dominick Cruz, trying to figure out what is coming next. Now, this style is also very, very well because of the wrestling of Dominick Cruz. Dominick Cruz had a wrestling game that was so complex and so talented that it was very difficult for people to just kind of rage and go forward on Dominick, because the escapes that he would make while you're mid punch, and then he would shoot on you after escaping, and he was just right in his distance management that he got the takedown very easily. And if you look at all the takedowns of Dominick Cruz, they're beautiful. They're double legs that are not contested. They're double legs that, I mean, people just had to succeed. People had to take the double leg because they were never going to defend it in the first place. When you have a guy as complex as Dominick Cruz with a wrestling style, it is very difficult to try to move forward. It's very difficult to try to really move at all with a guy like Dominick. Now, I do want to talk about the cons of Dominick Cruz, because not all styles are perfect. There are a lot of issues in this game, and it is very difficult in the modern day UFC for a guy like Dominick Cruz to really flourish. Now, why do I say that? I say that because of the pure implementations of calf kicks, because that is something that Dominick Cruz, when he has lost, because he has lost before in his career, and especially recently in his career, he has lost, and a lot of people implemented the calf kick and the leg kicks. When Dominick Cruz came back after all of his injuries and fought a guy like Henry Cejudo in 2020, he got absolutely demolished, and a lot of it was because of the leg kicks. The kicks that Cejudo was throwing at Dominick Cruz, they weren't really trying to land with a snap. He was trying to go completely through both legs, like a kind of like a baseball bat. Because of the footwork of Dominick Cruz and the elusive movement, he's never really planting, or he never really has his body behind his punches, which makes it so that his punches are very weak. I mean, Dominick Cruz rarely ever gets knockouts. He's had over 30 fights and he's only had 7 knockouts. A lot of his punches and his boxing is a lot of arm strikes, which is not a bad thing when you're thinking about Dominick Cruz's style, but it is a con in terms of trying to outmaneuver and outbully a guy who won't really take what Dominick Cruz is giving. I do think that the style of Dominick Cruz is a little outdated, but with certain tweaks and certain different things that can be maneuvered, I do think this style can come back to life. And if anyone can really figure it out, it is the mind of Dominick Cruz, because this is one of the more intelligent fighters we have ever seen. Guys, let me know how you feel about this video. Let me know how I explained it. The blueprint of Dominick Cruz is very difficult to really understand what he does, because when you look at it from just a pure entertainment standpoint, this guy is just so complicated to understand. Let me know any other breakdowns you want to see next. I love doing these sort of breakdowns. It's been Santi. It's been Studs.